This will be the first of our live coding sessions. We're going to be working on the customization of the single page checkout to mimic what is commonly seen in a JavaScript checkout. So here I have a stock storefront running the hero theme. And what we're going to be doing is taking a look at this checkout right here and take a look at how we can actually customize the single page checkout to achieve this look. So in these live coding sessions, it's not going to be as polished. You're going to see me dive into the inspection editor and think through how is this laid out and then make the changes in the actual storefront visual builder. So we're not going for polish. This is meant to be as if you're looking over a developer's shoulder and to learn some of the thought processes that go in. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and browse our storefront, and we're going to get to the single page checkout. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a product to the cart real quick. And since this is a new storefront, it's going to be creating some thumbnails. No big deal. So let's go ahead and enter edit mode. We have a lot of the components that we already need on the page. In fact, this is actually not the single page checkout, so I'm going to go into the back end of UltraCart and turn on the single page checkout real quick. There we go. So now we're on the single page checkout. So the technique I'm going to do is I'm going to stub out the containers and try and figure that part out, and then we'll start bringing things up. So just going to go ahead and look at my hierarchy here. And so we're going to be working inside this checkout form. And so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I note about this other checkout is it's a little skinnier. So I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out the containers. So let's go ahead and add a row, and we'll just go ahead and make that row 1 column wide. And let's choose a width. I think small is going to be good. And we'll go ahead and set just a background color to see what we're working with here. Oh, sorry, I added it way down there. What I should have done is use the add above, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and just drag that up to the top. There we go. All right, so width-wise, that's still a little too wide. You know what? I'm just going to use the inspect tool here and figure out exactly how wide that is. So looks like we're pushing, including the padding, 445 pixels. So let's just go ahead and choose a custom width, 445 px, and that's going to get us the same width. We're going to be replicating these sections, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to want to put some margin below them. Looks like about 10 pixels, so I'm just going to go ahead and say margin bottom 10 px. Okay. Inside each section, we kind of have a title bar and then a content section. So I'm going to go ahead and start and add 2 rows inside here. And I'm going to go ahead and name this my checkout section row. I like to name things. It helps to keep things organized. So let's go ahead and add a row. Also is going to be 1 column. And this one's going to be our checkout section title row. And then let's add one more below. And let's call that checkout section content row. Okay. Now, one thing we have with rows is they kind of have a default padding to them. You can kind of see that default padding and margin is taking place. I'm going to go ahead and just use the 0 command and tell it I want to 0 all of that. We'll come back and add more margin and padding later. So now you can see the rows are full width. Okay, now let's move on to the title, the colors of these sections, work with a little bit of that. So I've already taken some notes on another screen as to the colors that are in use on this checkout. All right. And I could use a theme color here. That would actually be a better idea. So let's actually go to our theme settings and let's define a new theme color called checkout section title background color. That's a long word, but hey, never hurts to be descriptive. Let's go to this gray here. Go back into our hierarchy and set that color. That way, if we decide, hey, we want to change that color, well, we can simply, let's see, there it is. All right. And then this one, let's do the same thing. Let's create another theme color. Call this one checkout section content background color. And that one, let's see, I got that one as E8, E8, E8. Now, the only downside to doing this as a theme color is if I just download the simple snippet, then it's not going to actually bring through those values if I were to import it somewhere else. That's the only downside to this style of theme colors. But you could always go in there and assign it. So, okay, kind of have that look going. That's a good start. Let's work on some of the corners associated with the rows. So looks like we have a little bit of border radius on there and top edges only. And then likewise, looks like we got some corners on the bottom. And we'll do bottom edges only. Okay. We also have a little bit of box shadow. And I am going to get rid of that red on the parent row. I just like to sometimes have that to see. So let's go into a slightly advanced technique when you need a look that's not possible in the standard settings. We have what's called Scope CSS. And Scope CSS is just simply CSS that is scoped to that particular element. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of box shadow here. You just do this curly brackets like you normally would, and then you put the CSS into there. And we're going to do the same for the bottom section. It's got a slightly different box shadow. We can put that in there. All right. Always a good idea to save as we go along. And it looks like we have a little bit of border on this one. So let's see here. They were using a solid 1 pixel border on all sides. So I can just hit 1 pixel and then say link, and it'll fill all that in. Do solid, and the color they were using was 555. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of that red on our parent row here. Awesome. All right, so let's take a look at these titles for a second. So we got Open Sans, and a 20 pixel size. And it looks like we also have a little icon next to them. So let's try and work through that here. We'll go ahead and add an icon. And the first one we're going to work on is the, let's work on the shipping information section here. So we can pick any icon. We just want to stub this out because we're going to replicate all these containers. And icons use font size as well. And they also need a color. So for now, let's just go ahead and make them white, because each section had some different color customizations. Okay. Go ahead and push it over there. Now, this element, this icon, is actually by default is going to take up the entire width. And so we are going to actually choose to display this as what's called an inline block element. And now the icon is only going to take up the space needed. We do need to add a little margin though to bump it off of the side of the parent element. And likewise, we'll do a little bit of margin to keep other elements from stacking up against it. Okay, so there's our icon. Let's go back into the hierarchy. And we'll add, oops, there's our icon. Let's go ahead and add another element right below this in the hierarchy. And we'll go ahead and use the headline element. There's a number of text elements you could use, but this one will serve just fine. We're going to do the same technique. We're going to go ahead and display this as inline block. And we can edit this text. So we'll call this, say they call it shipping information. All right. Let's work on some of the sizes. Font size, we already got 20 pixels, so that's good. Let's find our font. Open Sans. Got a lot of Google fonts here. It should be in here. There we go. Open Sans for the win. Let's go set our color. Looks like all the titles are the same color, so let's, yep, they're just using straight white. In the color picker, you can type in an RGBA, or in this case, I can just type in the word white. Okay. apologize there. Have to get my headset charging before I run out of juice. Okay. Continuing on, let's take a look. That's a little taller here. Let's go into his settings and see. Yeah, he has a little bit of margin and padding going on, so that's the ones we added. Oops. Let's see what else is causing his height to be a little taller. May come back and figure that out in a bit. And it could just be the icon font. Sometimes you get that. Now this guy's got a default margin. There we go. That's what's pushing it down. And a lot of times I like to rough things in and then come back and do all the minute pixel pushing, but that's a good start right there. And so we're going to be placing whole forms inside of each of these. So let's go ahead and make note of the sections we're going to work with. This card section is going to be slightly different, but we are going to just clone what we got, and we'll work on the colors and stuff in a bit. So we have, let's take some notes, then we'll go cloning. Your cart, shipping information, which we already have stubbed out. We are going to have a separate section. We'll do this checkout as different than billing later. Contact, shipping preference, summary, followed by payment. And then we'll do a button. Let's go ahead and see how this interacts, because I bet we have another section pop up. Sure do. That one's going to be called the billing information. All right, excellent. So next thing we want to do is go on a clone mission here. We're going to go up to this parent element. This is our checkout section. And we're going to clone this a total of 7 times. And then we're going to label and change things. Let's go ahead and make sure we do have a little margin between these guys, since I think we did zero it out. We'll go ahead and put, maybe let's be 20 pixels. Okay, excellent. So we're just going to use the duplicate option, which you see right here. Oh, sorry. You can do duplicate there, or you can just click add and then choose duplicate. Okay. Four times. All right, we're at 6. Let's do it one more. All right, so we got that stubbed in. I'm going to just go ahead and click on each headline because I can just quickly edit the text. This will help with my organization. I didn't have to retype that one, but that's all right. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to go back into the hierarchy, and we want to give these better names. Because right now they're all checkout section row. So We're going to just change, double click here. We can then edit. We can start naming these. It's just a good idea to give names to your elements in the hierarchy, especially when you have a lot of repeated content. Okay, so we got all that named. We have that laid out. Once again, we'll go ahead and save. Now let's start taking a look at the actual contents inside of the sections on this checkout. So basically what they have here is they have in layout fashion, they have these elements full width or 12 columns, and then these elements are 6 columns wide. And then they have a little stagger here, so that would be like 7 and 5. The good thing is we probably already have most of this layout down here in the existing shipping address. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have down here in the shipping section. All right, this entire row contains all of those fields. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and come down here and we're going to say copy. And then now let's go back up to this element. We're going to put all that content in, and then we're going to manipulate it. Here's our clipboard. We have that form row. It's going to be a little cramped at first, but it's there because the other one used a 2-column format. But the important thing is we got all the content in here. Okay. The easiest way for me to get this content out and lined up is probably going to be just to drag it over and outside of the checkout form. There we go. So I'm just going to take each one and just drag it over. We should start to see okay, this column is totally empty, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it, get it out of my way. Okay. And you can see as I drag things, if it's not allowed to drop there, it'll be red. And if it's an allowed drop target, I'll get that blue outline, and the parent I'm going to drop into, which is in this case that column 1, highlights in blue. Oops, there we go. Okay, last element. Awesome. Now let's get rid of this row that was the container. All right. Now let's take a look at which fields they actually have. So we definitely need to get rid of the company and title. I'm going to go ahead and delete this label. And this is actually a checkout condition to ask if the title's enabled on the store. So we'll just delete that. Okay, first name, last name, address, one, city, state, zip, and country, and then the day phone. So, right here, they just do a single phone number. So instead of day and evening, they have just the day phone. So let's go ahead and move that right up there. And then we'll get rid of this entire row. All right, and they're doing the email in another spot, so we'll get rid of this. Okay, next thing we need a little bit of padding right here to push everything in a little bit, keep it from looking so cramped. So we go into this column here and we can edit the padding. Let's see how it looks with 10 on each. Maybe 20. Oops. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're going to deploy this in production, you would spend a little more time tightening up everything. But this is just a coding demonstration. All right, let's save. Okay, so just went ahead and reloaded there real quick, make sure everything was looking nice and clean. Let's go ahead and do the same with the billing information. Add a child. We already have that on our clipboard. We're going to face the same challenge of removing all the elements from that 2-column layout. All right, so email's not done in this section. We'll go ahead and start dragging these over. That's one really nice thing about the hierarchy is the drag and drop just works really well. It's very controllable. Okay, we have emptied that out just like we did on the shipping address. And let's take a look. We're going to do the exact same thing, getting rid of the same fields. So get rid of the title and the company fields. the daytime phone up. Get rid of that. So give the column a little bit of padding. You may hear my dog in the background. She's decided to come visit during our session here on a lovely Saturday morning. Okay. One thing we want to talk about before we move on and forget is in the other design, the state and zip are not, they're not going to be the same exact width. So let's take a look at how we accomplish that in the hierarchy. So we have two columns here, and the one on the right is currently 6. And matter of fact, we're actually going to set this to be, because this layout works from small all the way up. So we'll set it to be 5. And the way this works is 5, and if you don't specify anything on the larger sizes, that's what it'll be. So that'll be 5. And then on this one, we're going to make it 7. So we can get that same staggered look. Let's do the same up here. Cool. All right, so we have the billing and the shipping sections done. We're going to come back a little bit later in this session, and we're going to actually get that checkbox that conditionally shows this billing section working. That'll be a little bit later. Let's focus now. We need to pull up the email address and the shipping preference and the summary. Those should be fairly easy for us. So let's go ahead and find our email field. Right here, and we're going to go ahead. Here's our checkout email, but we're actually going to copy the label as well, because typically you're going to see an input surrounded by a label. Okay, so that was easy, but let's do the same thing. Let's get that padding in there. That may be a little excessive, even though it matches the other ones, but so we'll push final pixels later if we were deploying this. The shipping preference is just a single widget. So let's go ahead and copy that. It would have been nice if I had set the padding uniformly before I duplicated all those sessions earlier. That would have saved me from having to do this step several times, but all right. And they have a summary widget. Notice here they have this free shipping as well. I'll show you how that's actually accomplished. We do have support for that. So check out summary widget, copy that. And one thing you can do, so you see me go into the hierarchy to find that column and add padding, but you'll notice down here there are arrow keys that can help you navigate. So shift up arrow is the parent. So I can hover over this. I could hit shift up arrow and I would be on the column, and I could hit the shortcut key S for settings. I could have also right clicked and used the flyout menu, so settings, and then I could have gone to that column. So there's definitely a number of ways to do the navigational operations other than going into the hierarchy all the time. So let's take a look here. So free shipping text, and you can do that. Now, one thing about it, um, theirs had, and this is advanced, so we might as well cover advanced. Theirs actually has a bold look to it. So I'm going to go see if I can edit that shipping method real quick in the background. The test data here is a little silly, but that's okay. This is just a test account. Makes total sense that Express Mail would be the cheapest, but let's actually set Priority Mail to be free. Let's see here. Free shipping. Oops. Free shipping if order subtotal is $0. Let's see what that does. Oh, good warning. All right, I'm going to save and reload real quick just to force it to redisplay. I think there's something funny about the item I have. Look at this packing solution. Yeah, this item's set up to be fixed. Okay, well, we'll cover it later. Bottom line is, if this is free, there's actually a class that gets put around the text, and you can do some more styling with Scope CSS. We'll save that for another video. But let's continue on. Payment section. This should be fairly easy. They're doing the standard credit card type drop down. Kind of like the newer one. I think it's a good idea if we just stick with this. So I'm actually going to grab, right now the hero theme has this in a panel, um, and then the different elements. The panel is just kind of like a standard div tag. It just gives designers more ability to control things. But let's just go ahead and put that whole container up here for a second. And the panel's causing it to push out, but we're going to do that same drag technique to get everything out of that panel and just into our standard. So yeah, there we go. Just need to go out one. Okay, we can get rid of that panel. That panel has responsive widths and stuff. That's why it wasn't being constrained. So we have the full credit card field. Let's go ahead and do that margin and padding real quick. Padding. Okay, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. So we'd have a button down there. So let's save that off. Okay, so we still have this left to do. And then we kind of have the cart up at the top. So item title. This looks like a more detailed item description, price, quantity, update, remove. So definitely would be a good idea for us to just start with another section of the existing cart and then do some manipulation. So let's figure out, best element here is going to be our checkout item list, because this element is what actually iterates through the entire contents of the checkout. Oops, I accidentally closed the hierarchy there. So let's open that back up. Okay. Very cramped. That's what we would expect. All right, so let's think about this. Our layout's going to be a row. It looks like 5 columns and then 7 columns. It's not quite split in half. And the image is going to be on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new row and then bring up what I want. I think that might be a little easier. So I'm going to do add above, a row, 2 columns. Let's go ahead and adjust. So we said it'd be 5 on the first column and 7 on the second column. And since this is new, I want to get rid of all that default margin and padding. I'm just going to zero it out. There we go. You see how now it'll take up that full width. Okay, let's bring the item image up. Okay. And probably size thumbnail. See what size they're doing. 166. We'll ask ours to be 166 as well. Okay. On the other column, let's get the item title next. And we're going to keep our item link in the design. Well, actually, since this is on a lander type page, we will actually not. So I'm going to choose, I'm going to actually choose a new, I'm going to show you a new tool. When I want to get rid of this parent and just have this item title under that parent, I can come in here and I can say unwrap. It's going to say, hey, do you want to remove the item link and bring all the elements up under the column? And I can say, okay. And so now I end up with that. see. 1 second. Let's add below the item description. Hopefully it's not too crazy in this example. If it is, we'll just edit it. Yeah, this sample item is pretty insane. So big lorem ipsum block. Okay. Well, while we're at it, we might as well work on the font size. Open sans and 14 pixels as well. Probably be a good idea if we just set the body font to be open sans. That would probably be a best way to look at that. "14 pixels. So likewise, we can edit this item title. So we'll, even though the SKU is a blue sweatshirt SKU, we'll okay, then price, quantity, and the remove button are what we have left to bring up. Oops. Okay, there's the price. Drag the quantity up. And here's the remove button. Okay, so we can get rid of all this other old item row at this point. Let's see. This element likes to align itself to the center when it's in. I could turn off the plus and minus, but I don't really want to. Take a look. That yeah, this is a button. Fluid into the left. Okay. Notice that their background here is white, so we're going to change ours as well. That'll solve a number of issues. Let's go back up to our content section row. Notice it's using the theme color. And we've made it so you can't actually accidentally edit theme colors here, but you can always override them. So I can just say white. Just need to see how this is behaving. So I'm going to show you an example of some scope CSS because I need to do something to this element that's currently not supported. So I'm going to actually adjust the margin of that internal div that gets added. So it would be nice, and then we'll probably end up adding an alignment option. But for now, let's keep moving forward. I'll just set it back to margin initial. Okay. All right, I like that. Obviously, a little bit of margin between these elements, pad them out, adjust some fonts. You could push pixels in there, just like everywhere else. Let's go back up to that column that we forgot to put 20 pixels on before we cloned it all over the place. There we go. Okay, so right there we have pretty much the look. We need to now create, we'll come back to the promo code in a second. And we need to create this dark checkbox with that. It's really not hard to do. I'm going to clone this contact information. In fact, before I do that, let's go delete some of the other sections of the old page that we no longer need. Start cleaning up some of this. Yeah, it's a big. I think we're through with the checkout item list. We're going to leave that coupon section down there because that is part of it. You can really see when you're in editor mode the amount of complexity that we've been able to capture and deal with in a visual builder. Because every element, whether you use it or not, is actually configured in here. I think we're done with all of the payment stuff. Just seeing here notes about like Amazon payments. That's because we were able to add direct support for Amazon payments into the single page checkout instead of handing it off into the multi-page checkout. So that was also a nice improvement. Okay. I'm going to leave this other stuff for now. I may have actually deleted my billing is different, but that's easy enough to put in there. So now let's go back in here to the hierarchy, to this small contact section. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it to duplicate. So here we have our duplicate. Let's drag it up in between the billing and the shipping. And we'll call it billing different section. And technically there's not going to be a content row. We're going to do everything up here. Get rid of our icon. Get rid of our headline. Oops. My corners. We're going to put those on all edges to get that round look. Okay, now we're going to add the billing different. Let's go ahead and use the round toggle. I think that looks better. It's easier for them to manipulate. And of course, we're going to need to use a white font. Pretty sure it's just straight white, so. Yeah, straight white. And I think if we just put our standard 20 pixels of padding, it'll have a similar look. Yeah. A little extra padding going on there. Just gonna go ahead and zero out everything, see what it tightens up to. I have to investigate a little further that little extra padding there. So let's just go ahead. We'll go on to the billing different element and we'll deal with it using margin. And then we need to put that margin back on our section. There we go. Yeah, there's not really a span around the particular word where we could target different right now. So that'd be something we might enhance in the future. So what we need to do is we need to actually get this billing is different to cause this section to actually appear and disappear. And so the way we do this is with the checkout condition element. That's going to control everything logic-wise. So we're going to take this billing section row and we're going to say wrap it. Choose checkout condition. And it's going to ask us what condition we want it to match. And let's go through here. Here's all the different conditions we can use. We're going to choose the billing different than shipping. And just like that, when this is toggled, this is going to display and hide. Go ahead and save our work. Take a look at the last section that we need to deal with is the enter promo code. I'm going to try and refresh this page real quick. So we're just live coding, so you're going to see all the roughness. There we go. Have a promo code. So we want a little gray box that says have promo code ? With a yes button. And then when they click that, we want to have it change to enter promo code with the input and the apply button. So, should be easy enough to do that. Let's figure out our starting point. We're going to put a new section up in here. So I'm going to start with this email section again. Good starting block. Coupon section. Let's go ahead and drag it up where we want it. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of the entire title. So we get that gray. Let's round out all the edges. Let's get rid of that content. So now we have a clean slate. Let's start off by getting the have a promo code with the button in there. So start with a one column row. Go ahead and label that. So we're going to need some text. And then we're going to need a button. Okay, our button just simply says yes. It's kind of a very small button. Maybe not that small. Put that as an inline block element. Now let's edit this text and say have a promo code. Okay. Once again, we're going to go up into the column settings and we're going to go up to that parent. Alignment center. Okay. Now this little red is telling me, hey, you don't have this button set to do anything, and that's on purpose so far. We need to actually add the coupon code field. So what we're going to do here is add another row. We'll call this row coupon code entry row. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this row, we're going to actually set this row to be hidden. So when the page loads, this is going to be hidden. Now watch how we can wire up the button when they click it. So the button action will be set to show and hide. For the show, we're going to show our entry section. And then for the hide, we're actually going to hide this row. Okay, so we got that logic wired up. Let's go we're going to end up taking this entire coupon section down here, coupon list. Okay, so what I really want is the entire contents of this column. So I need to take the whole row, and we'll do that drag technique. Get rid of all that express checkout button stuff. It'll be just easier to see. So here we have our elements, and we're going to drag them over too, just like we did prior. So 1, 2. You could do a lot of styling in there. We're going to leave that up to the polishing that would happen at the end of deployment. Okay, finally the button down at the bottom. It's going to be the same as this complete order button. So let's go ahead and grab it. Here's our sections, our payment. Say add below. It's basically adding a sibling below. Let's see. Now, this is full width because it's not constrained within that 445 pixel row. So let's go into the hierarchy. There's our button. Let's go ahead and name it complete order button. And let's look at the settings real quick. So this button is set to submit the form, and then the form is set to finalize order, the checkout form element, because this is the single page checkout. Okay, so let's take this button and we're going to use the wrap tool, and we're going to choose a row with one column. Go ahead and set that width to custom again, 445 pixels. And keep in mind, we have a lot of default column padding and stuff. We could use the 0 tool. Let's actually look at what we're going to do. What the 0 tool is doing is coming in here and nailing all those defaults. Name that. Now, most of the validation is going to be inline for required fields and stuff, but there is the stock error modal that's on the page that will display errors. And so that's actually, we're leaving that in there. It's already wired up to the checkout form. And so at this point, we can go ahead and clean up all the other content from the old single page checkout that was left over. Okay, we'll go ahead and save. Sometimes Chrome gets a little piggish when it's been running for a while. Okay, so this is our cart outside of edit mode. Looks pretty good. Let's take a look and see how some of the functionality works. So we can adjust the quantities. You see that we're getting that live action. There's our coupon code entry. I have the 5 off coupon applied. I can also test the fake coupon. Good, good. We have all the required fields are labeled, so we're getting that nice inline validation. We have the state as a drop-down box for countries where we know those lists. There's our billing is different showing up. Email for confirmation. We have our shipping information. Let's go back up here and we'll test that 5 off coupon. So we can see down here, it'll actually display all that. And then we have our credit card. So in about an hour and 14 minutes, or so is what the current time is on this session, we have transformed the stock hero single page checkout into a custom checkout that you might see on a landing page, such as the sample site that we just built. And this entire checkout, which we demonstrated in the Hero webinar, this entire checkout can be downloaded as a CJSON file. So I can just hit download, and I could call this, name it so I could keep track of it, True Energy Checkout. And just like that, we have that checkout file.